What's up guys? In this video I'm going to talk to you about why you should not get the 15-inch M2 MacBook Air. And the first reason right off the bat is it's huge. Like, it's way bigger than any small laptop that you would need. A MacBook Air is meant to be small and light, and the fact that it has like a 15-inch massive screen makes it a deal breaker for me anyway. So right now I got in front of me, I have the MacBook Air. This computer is light, it's small, and it's portable. And I think that is the purpose of the MacBook Air, is just to have a computer that's light, it's easy to move around, and it's comfortable when you're like sitting on the couch. So a lot of times I have this computer plugged into my LG Ultrafine, which is perfect for like a good ergonomic setup, but every once in a while I just want to sit on the couch or lay in bed and work from my computer. And having something that's really heavy and bulky is just kind of annoying. So I used to have the 14-inch MacBook Pro, and while I love that computer, switching back to the M1 MacBook Air has just been really nice to have something that's much lighter weight. And I love that it doesn't put out that heat like the MacBook Pro did. And I know the M2 MacBook Air puts out a lot more heat as well, and that's the second reason why I think that you shouldn't get it. It's just putting out more heat, and then having that computer on your lap or something is just a little bit uncomfortable. But the main reason for me is it's just a huge computer to have that bigger, larger screen, which is really nice. I mean, if that's your primary computer, I would say maybe it's not that big of a deal if you're just using that for everything, if you're doing video editing, if you want to do photo editing. But I would just recommend getting a second monitor like an LG Ultrafine. They're pretty easy to find, around $500 to $600 used, and I think it's just a way better setup than lugging around a 15-inch MacBook Air, because the problem with that is you don't have a good ergonomic setup. With any laptop, the screen is going to be way too low. It should be at eye level, and looking down, you can have neck problems over time. And then the other issue is just with like poor ergonomics with the keyboard. So if I'm using this as my primary laptop, I have these hard, rough surfaces that can be problematic. And then you also have all these issues that you run into just not having the correct height of a keyboard, because your arms realistically should be around 90 degrees like this, and your feet should be 90 degrees on the floor. And if you're sitting on your bed or on a couch or anything like that, you're just gonna be in a poor ergonomic position. And that's why you really ideally should be at a desk most of the time. But I understand a lot of us, we get tired of sitting at the desk, we want to move around a little bit, maybe we want to be in a standing position, and I think that's totally fine. And so that's where a portable laptop like a 13-inch is perfect for that. But that's also why I think you need an external monitor, whether that be like one of the 24-inch LGs or a studio display or the LG Ultrafine. And I personally think like the LG Ultrafine is perfect for most people. It has a really good large screen, it has a good size, and it also tilts, and it's much cheaper than the equivalent to the Mac Studio, which is like $2,000 to have the one that will tilt and raise and lower. Those features are already built into the LG Ultrafine, and that's why I think it's just a really good display for the price. Okay, another reason why I would say don't get the 15-inch MacBook Air is just because it's a lot heavier. I know a lot of people say that it's really light, but it's not as light as this 13-inch MacBook Air. And going from this to the 15-inch MacBook Air, it's so much heavier. I was actually looking in the Apple stores and just testing out the weight. And it may not seem that significant, but when you're using it on the couch, first of all, it's just kind of bulky, like it kind of takes over your whole lap. It's not a comfortable laptop to kind of use as a mobile device. Like if you're traveling with it, like it's gonna take up all this suitcase space, and just using it on your lap, like it's not that comfortable of a laptop. If you're sitting at a table, that's completely fine. Like if you're doing all your work at a table and you need like a 15-inch monitor, that's fine. But for most of us, if you want to have good ergonomics, I would just say get a larger display in general. And if you don't have that option, just get a computer, raise it up on some sort of platform underneath, and get like an external keyboard and mouse. And that's going to be ideally the best situation for ergonomics. Another reason not to get the 15-inch is because there's no SD card slot. Now this computer right here doesn't have a card slot, but I'm usually using it on my LG Ultrafine, and I just plug the card slot in the back of that monitor, and so I can do everything from there. It is annoying. I wish this computer had an SD card slot, because then I could use it a little bit easier if I'm like in another place, like on the couch, or if I'm traveling. I don't have to bring an adapter with me or a SD card reader. That is one huge annoyance of this computer, and that's another reason why I really like the 14-inch. But the 14-inch, I mean, it's just a little cumbersome. Just the size of it kind of bothers me, and it's not easy to travel with or to put it in a backpack. It's not a huge computer, but it is just a little bit larger and heavier than what I would prefer. Another thing about the 15-inch is the base model is crippled. So if you buy the M2 MacBook Air 15-inch and you buy the base model with 256 SSD and 8 gigabytes of RAM, that RAM is not going to do much for you unless you're just using it for like the internet. If you're doing any photo editing or video editing, you're really going to want that 16 gigs of RAM, which is going to cost you $200 more. If you want a better hard drive, which the base model has a terrible hard drive. It has a worse hard drive than this computer that I'm using, which is like 2 years older. Yes, the M1 MacBook Air, the 256 base model SSD is a better hard drive. It's almost twice the speed than the 256 SSD that you'll get in the 15-inch MacBook Air. Now, if you upgrade to the 512, like that's gonna give you a much faster speed than the base model. So I would definitely not get the base model if you plan on getting that. And that's why I think the M1 MacBook Air 13-inch is just a better computer all around. Yes, it looks a little better. It has better ports. You can use more ports because you have that MagSafe charging port. But I can get by just fine with this. I'm not using all the ports, and if I need more ports, I just plug it into my LG Ultrafine, and I use the 4 USB ports on the back of it. So don't get the M2 MacBook Air because the base model is crippled, and you have to pay a ton of money to upgrade it to what it really should be, and you can get that same computer with the previous generation M1 MacBook Air. Okay, so what computer should you get instead of the 15-inch MacBook Air? I would say I think the 13-inch M1 MacBook Air is a great computer. It's really portable and light, and let's say you just want better performance, like you can't stand the M1 MacBook Air, it's just not fast enough with you. Well, you can get a slight increase in performance, and I would just say get the 14-inch MacBook Air. It's a little bit heavier, a little bit chunkier, but it doesn't take up all that space like the 15-inch because it's a pretty large computer, and that's why I don't like the 16-inch MacBook Pro at all. It's just massive. So I think the computer to get is the 14-inch MacBook Pro if you need that better performance and you still want a laptop. Otherwise, just get the 13-inch. I think it's a better all-around computer for mobility, right? And that's what you get a MacBook for, is you get it for mobility. Now, if you don't need a computer that's mobile that you don't take with you, just get a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio. Those are gonna be way better options. But for most people, 13-inch MacBook Air or the 14-inch MacBook Pro. And I would only get the M1 model. Don't get the M2 because the base model is crippled. It has way slower SSD speeds. Go with the M1. Now let's say you're dead set on getting an M2 computer, you want that better and faster chip. I would say still don't get the 15-inch MacBook Air. I would go with the 13-inch. If you want that portability, it's just lighter, it's smaller, it's more compact. If you want a MacBook Air, get a MacBook Air. Don't get this massive large screen like the 15-inch has. The 13-inch is gonna be just as fast as the 15-inch, so just get the 13-inch, and if you want anything faster, get the 14-inch. So 13 or 14, don't get the 15, it's way larger. A laptop should be portable, and if you're lugging around this massive 15-inch computer, it's not really that portable, and so that's why I would say get the 13 or the 14. Now, for any of you who have a 15-inch MacBook Air, I'm not judging you, or I don't have anything against you. I think it's a fine computer. 1 inch bigger isn't that big of a deal, but in my opinion, I actually prefer the 13-inch. And I didn't used to think this way, but I really like the size of the 13-inch after using the 14-inch and going back to the 13-inch. I was like, you know what, this is really nice. I should just stick with the 13-inch. And this has been the computer that I've just started to love. Maybe I should try the 15 inch or the 14 inch or the 60 inch to see if it makes a difference. But for portability, I just like the size of the 13 inch. And for everything else, I'm just gonna use my 27 inch LG Ultrafine. All right guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your comments below. I'm sure there are gonna be some differences in opinion here with the best MacBook size, but this is my opinion, and feel free to bash or share whatever you have to say about it. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks.